The chronometer on Jack's workbench flickered past midnight as he wiped grease from his calloused hands. The frontier outpost of New Meridian hummed quietly around him, its skeleton crew of miners and traders long since retired to their bunks. Only the essential systems maintained their endless vigil, casting pale blue light through the maintenance bay where Jack spent most of his waking hours. He was about to power down his tools when a soft tapping echoed through the bay. Jack frowned, listening carefully. The sound came again, deliberate, almost hesitant. He made his way to the outer airlock, peering through the reinforced viewport. A figure stood in the dim corridor beyond, small and hunched against the cold. Jack's breath caught as he realized what he was seeing. The being was clearly non-human. Her skin held a faint luminescent quality that shifted between silver and blue, and her eyes were far too large for her delicate features. She couldn't have been more than 16 in human years, though with aliens, age was always difficult to determine. "Please," came a voice through the comm speaker, melodic despite its obvious distress. "My ship. It's damaged. I need help." Every regulation Jack had ever learned screamed against opening that door. Unauthorized alien contact was strictly forbidden for civilian contractors. But the girl, for that's what she appeared to be, was shivering, and her luminescence was flickering weakly like a dying light. Jack cursed under his breath and cycled the airlock. "Thank you," she whispered as she stumbled inside, her strange, graceful limbs barely keeping her upright. "I am called Daisy. It's the name your kind would understand." "Jack," he replied simply, already moving toward his emergency medical kit. "Where's your ship?" Daisy gestured weakly toward the outer docking ring. "Bay 47, the quantum resonator is failing and the life support—" She wavered and Jack caught her arm. Her skin was cool but not unpleasantly so, and he could feel a subtle vibration beneath the surface like a purring engine. "Easy there. Let's get you some water and figure this out." For the next 6 hours, Jack worked with an intensity he'd never experienced before. Daisy's ship was unlike anything in his technical manuals, a sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed grown rather than built. The quantum resonator was indeed failing, its crystalline core fractured and bleeding exotic energy. But Jack had spent 15 years fixing impossible things with inadequate tools. He jury-rigged a temporary containment field using salvaged mining equipment, rerouted the life support through his own portable units, and somehow coaxed the ship's systems back to marginal functionality. "This will get you to the nearest major port," he said, sealing the final access panel. "But you'll need proper parts there. I've done all I can with what we have." Daisy's luminescence had grown steady and bright again, her large eyes fixed on him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Why did you help me? Your people usually require authorization for contact with mine." Jack shrugged, suddenly embarrassed. "You needed help. That's enough for me." She stepped closer, and for a moment he thought she might touch his face. Instead, she pressed something small and warm into his palm, a crystalline pendant that pulsed with soft light. "If you ever need anything," she said softly, "anything at all, activate this. Promise me." "I promise," Jack said, though he couldn't imagine what help an alien girl could possibly offer a broke outpost mechanic. Daisy smiled, a heartbreakingly beautiful expression, and boarded her ship. Jack watched from the observation deck as her craft slipped silently into the black between stars. The next morning brought chaos. Jack woke to the sound of klaxons and the thunder of massive ships entering the system. Through his quarter's small porthole, he could see the distinctive silhouettes of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet, dozens of vessels ranging from sleek frigates to city-sized dreadnoughts. The outpost's commander, a nervous man named Peterson, was practically hyperventilating as he addressed the emergency assembly. "They're demanding to speak with whoever assisted one of their people last night," Peterson announced, his voice cracking. "They won't say why, but they've got enough firepower to turn this rock into dust." Jack's blood went cold. The pendant in his pocket seemed to grow warm against his leg. An hour later, he stood in the outpost's main docking bay, watching as a ceremonial shuttle landed with impossible grace. The airlock cycled and figures emerged, tall, luminous beings in flowing robes that seemed to capture starlight. At their head walked a woman whose presence filled the entire bay. She was clearly of the same species as Daisy, but where the girl had been delicate and uncertain, this being radiated power and authority that made the air itself seem to shimmer. Her luminescence was brilliant, almost difficult to look at directly, Behind her, to Jack's amazement, walked Daisy herself. The woman approached Jack with measured steps, her enormous eyes studying him with an intensity that felt like being examined by a living star. "I am Empress Lyralee of the Zephyrian Dominion," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in Jack's chest. "You assisted my daughter." The words hit Jack like a physical blow. Daughter Empress. He'd helped an alien princess and jury-rigged the ship of one of the most powerful beings in known space with mining equipment and spare parts. "Your Majesty, he began, but she held up a hand. "My daughter tells me you asked for nothing in return, that you risked your career and freedom simply because she needed help." The Empress moved closer, and Jack could see that her eyes held the same gentle quality as Daisy's. "She also tells me that you made her ship better than it was before you found it broken." Jack glanced at Daisy, who gave him a small, encouraging smile. "In all my years ruling the Zephyrian Dominion," the Empress continued, "I have met countless beings who sought favor, wealth, or power through their actions toward my family. You are the first who sought nothing but her safety." She gestured, and one of her attendants stepped forward carrying an ornate case. "The Zephyrian Dominion is placing this outpost under our protection," she announced loud enough for everyone to hear. "And you, Jack Morrison, are hereby appointed as our official liaison and chief technological advisor. Your compensation will reflect the value we place on genuine kindness." The case opened to reveal more credits than Jack had ever seen in his life, along with technical specifications that made his engineer's heart race. "Oh, Majesty," he managed, that's not necessary. I was just doing what anyone should do." Empress Lyralee smiled, and for a moment she looked remarkably like her daughter. "That," she said, "is precisely why you deserve it." As the ceremony concluded and the Zephyrian fleet prepared to depart, Daisy approached Jack one final time. "Thank you," she said simply, "for treating me like a person instead of a princess." Jack nodded, still struggling to process everything that had happened. "Take care of yourself out there." "I will," she promised. "And Jack, the offer still stands. If you ever need anything at all." She gestured to the pendant, which now seemed to pulse in harmony with his heartbeat. As he watched the Zephyrian fleet disappear into hyperspace, Jack reflected on the strange turn his life had taken. He'd always believed that doing the right thing was its own reward. Sometimes, he thought with a smile, the universe decided to add interest to that reward. The poor outpost mechanic was poor no longer, but more importantly, he had learned that kindness, true selfless kindness, could bridge any gap between species, status, or star systems. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, an alien princess remembered the human who had helped her, simply because she needed help. That was perhaps the greatest treasure of all.